Hey everybody, welcome to another, the new version of Top 100 Games of All Time. Excuse me, I have to cough. 2024 edition, we're going with games 90 through 81. And I'm Petter, and yes, you might be like, hey, didn't you stream this yesterday? Why, I did. I most certainly did. And I accidentally had muted the microphone, actually double muted the microphone. Good job, me. So, when I unmuted, I wasn't actually unmuted. That's why you could probably hear me testing out the sound in the background there. But let's get to 90 through 81, and at 90 here we have Project Elite. Project Elite is a wonderful game that, it's so much fun, and it's a type of game that I wouldn't normally love. I say that knowing very well that there are tons of things in the game that, yes, I would normally love because it does a tons of things that I love. So, it's cooperative. Love cooperative games. Dudes on a map. Lots of minis. Awesome. Love that. Base defense. Base defense and competing objectives. Love those things. But the element that I really don't like in games is real time. And Project Elite has it in real time because you're defending the base. You are dealing with the waves and hordes of monsters in real time. You're rolling dice. You're setting some aside to complete objectives or to use it to move, to load your weapon, to shoot, whatever it might be. But it's done in 2-minute chunks of time. It's done in these really short, snappy amounts of time. And then you get to take that rest. You get to take that minute to add in more bad guys. And then you do it again. And there's no real timer on the game besides just completing those objectives and dealing with the monsters. You could fight wave after wave after wave after wave, but eventually you're not going to be able to keep up with killing everything on the board. You never wipe the board clean. So, excuse me, my voice is for some reason going a little. So, with that, it means that you're having to think about, okay, I want to deal with these monsters, and I have to get to these objectives, whatever that might be, because if I don't, then eventually we're just going to be overrun. And this version of it is the one I've played from CMON. I would love to get my hands on just the base box would be enough for me, because it is so much fun. The original company that put out Project Elite, they are putting out a new version of it, but not with this alien waves horde coming at you, but it's going to be firefighter themed. And that also sounds super interesting to me. Basically, like a whole bunch of fires break out, you're having to go out and deal with them. My guess is you're probably also trying to investigate what's happening with it, because fires, like a whole bunch of fires, probably don't just happen randomly. So you're having to deal with kind of that element as well. So I'm excited to hear more about that one. I think it's supposed to be available, or not available, but showing off at Essen, which is happening right now, or will be happening. And I'm excited to hear kind of people talking about that one. So, my 89 is going to be Lands of Galzir. Lands of Galzir has dropped quite a ways for me. And this one dropped not because I don't love the game. I do love the game. Anything in my top 100 I love. Anything in my top 200 really. Which is why I have a video that I'll do later, 101 to 200. But Lands of Galzir is going to be this storytelling kind of adventure, going out on quests sort of game, and just seeing how much notoriety and fame you can gather. I think that's what does push it down a little bit. I wish that you had all of these side quests going on because they are great, but it feels like a D&D campaign a little bit where it's just side quests. And I'd love to have a few like through storylines going, so you could play, say you play a year and there's some event that kind of travels through that whole year that you're guaranteed to be able to touch on and can be part of the game, especially if you're playing it cooperatively or at least semi-cooperatively, where that story will progress since you play month by month, no matter what you do, but you can influence how it progresses as well. That probably pushes it down, but it's so simple to learn and play that I really, really enjoyed this game and kind of the experience that Lands of Galzir gives you. It's a relaxed game to play, which is nice. Then my number 88 is going to be Koihaku. This one is a tableau building game where you're building out your best koi pond in front of you. This koi pond, it's going to have two things in there. Obviously, you're going to have koi in there. You can see them on the cover. But you're also going to have these different features. It might be a frog that wants to eat the dragonflies on the koi tiles. Or it might be like that lily there, where you will score points for fish, for the koi around that are of that color. But it does two things that I really like. With that scoring and everything, like the feature tiles are always the scoring tiles, but you can't ever put a scoring tile next to a scoring tile. So you're always going scoring, fish, scoring. And if you go vertically as well, you always have to do a fish next to a scoring tile and scoring tile next to fish, never like next to like. So that's an interesting aspect, and that bleeds into how you pick your tiles, because you're always picking two tiles and you're doing that from a grid of tiles. But you can't just be like, I want this tile and this tile. You always have to take a feature and a koi tile, and those two have to be adjacent to each other as well. So there's some strategy and some thinking about, okay, that scoring may not be the best for me, but I'll have time to get it to work, and this koi will help me. So that's my best option. So there's this nice little bit of decision-making space in the game that I think works really well and is really enjoyable. Then 87 here is going to be My City. This is the first legacy game on the list. And this one is, again, one of those kind of easy to pick up and learn gaming experiences. As you play, you are flipping over a card, and everybody places that piece of the city. You can kind of see the shape of those here on the cover onto your city or your board. And you're just seeing who can score the best based off of what's flipped. And the scoring starts out really simple. It might be like you lose a point for open ground, you lose a point for rocks, and you score a point for trees. So you're just trying to cover up as much as you can so that you can cover everything that gives you negative points and still score your trees. But each game adds something a little bit more. And the game's split into chapters, and then each chapter has kind of these episodes within it. So each chapter has a theme. It might be industry, it might be religion, whatever it might be, that gets added and builds into the town experience of building out in My City. But while you're doing that, within each chapter, each episode adds a little bit more at a slower pace as well, which I think works super well because it never overwhelms you with new stuff. So you're always just learning and remembering just one new thing each game. And each game takes maybe 30 minutes. So it's a chance to play a few games in a night. Realistically, you can do a chapter in a night. If you wanted to push it, you could do two, but that would get fairly long, and the game is not that complex. So I think it's one that's a great one for, say, you want to play with some people and you spread it out once a month. Get together, some friends, or if you have enough people in your household. If you have enough in your household, maybe it's once a week. And you just try and play. You play through a chapter, and then you pick it up next time. I really enjoy this one, just for what it is. It's very simple, straightforward, and fun. My 86 is going to be the Isofarian Guard. And this one, I think, could move up as I play it more. This is a one-player game, kind of two-player, narrative, big experience. I actually just got the upgrade pack for it, so I need to go through and get all of that taken care of, which, that is a heavy upgrade pack. But this is a story experience game where you are going through these different missions and stories with these Isofarian guards. And each time it's 2 guards. That's why I say it can be a 2-player sort of thing, because as you play, you're going to then be controlling those 2. They move as a group, but when you get into combat, when you deal with missions and stuff like that, then each character kind of activates on their own and does their own special thing. So 2-player for combat, and then kind of a joint decision making for story, I think might be the best way to play it if you play it at, well, and playing it at 2 might be the best way to play it. And then each story, you're taking different Isofarian Guard, and I believe the timeline even kind of overlaps some. So, well, you might go out on a mission with one group, and you're hitting up a certain part of the board. Another group is headed out to another part of the board. And so you may see world and hear about world events happening at the same time from a previous campaign, which I think is really interesting and fun as well. And I like the system that they use for combat, because it's this chip drawing system. So you can get and make decisions about, like, okay, I want to add more defensive chips. So combat might take longer, but I'm going to be protected. Or it might be, I want to add in more offensive chips. Let's see how fast we can crank through this. But of course, then you might potentially be taking more damage. The one thing that probably keeps it lower than some other narrative games for me is there is a grindy element to the game, in that every time you travel to a node on the map, or not every time, but a lot of them, there are combats that can happen. You're drawing a chip out, it's going to tell you what sort of event happens there, and a lot of them are combats. So you're going to face some of these combats over and over and over again, but at the same time you're also farming basically experience points that you can then use to level up your characters, making those combats potentially even faster. And I think once you reach a point where that combat is over just like that, I just start skipping them personally. But yeah, I want to get this one back to the table. 85, I believe, is next here. Super Skill Pinball Forade. This one, again, higher on my list previously, but one of my favorite solo roll and write games. You can also play multiplayer, but I do prefer it solo. This is basically a pinball machine simulator. You grab your board and you start rolling dice, and that tells you where you're going to be able to place and move the ball around. And it follows kind of what you expect. If you hit a certain bumper, it's going to launch it up in a particular direction. And so it's going to go up that way or that way, depending on the side. And then when it hits something higher, it's going to bounce back down. Obviously, there are some exceptions, like the bumpers, where it goes ping, 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 ping in the middle. Oh, that exists in this game. And I really like kind of that attention to detail. The reason I say, though, that I like it best as a solo experience is because the game can end at different times. If, based off of the decisions that I made, I lose a ball earlier, I can then launch off my second ball and we continue playing at the same time, but it is possible if things just go really poorly for one person, if they make one wrong decision, two wrong decisions, and then just bad luck on the die roll, that somebody could be done notably before the other people, and that's a bummer. That's always a bummer in a game when something like that can happen. So this one, because of that, I like it as a solo. You're probably not dealing with a massive amount of time, and it's an easy enough game with limited enough choices. You can just sit there and talk through it and have a conversation while finishing out the game, but it is something that can happen. Then next one up here on the list is the oldest game on the list. It is Kocol. This is a dexterity flicking game that is so much fun just for two-player. I mean, you can play it 4 as well. I really enjoy it 2-player, just back and forth of flicking discs, trying to get them into the middle. If you get sinking in the middle, you get 20 points, and it goes off the board. But otherwise, if you don't get it in that dead center, you need to get it in that center circle that's protected by the little bumper pieces, and then your opponent has to be shooting to hit your piece first before dropping it into the middle. I think that is just some fun strategy, and it is something you can get good at. Like, if you spend a lot of time playing this, and I want to spend more time playing it than I have, I'm sure I could get very good at this just from a lot of practice. But it's simple, it's classic, really good one here, Kocol. Next game up on the list is the first of the Clever games. I believe that there are going to be at least one more on the list. These from Schmidt and Stronghold Games are going to be Ganzhang Clever, Doppelt so Clever, Clever Cubed, or Clever Hoch 3 if in German, and then Clever Forever. These are all separate on the list because they are different enough games, but they follow kind of a similar pattern. And I really like Clever Cubed because it is one of the more combo-tastic ones, where you're rolling dice and you're picking one of the die to use, and you're placing that number on your board in a certain spot. And if you cover up a spot that maybe has a bonus beneath it, then you can score that bonus, and that may trigger in another area, allow you to fill in a number there, which could then cause you to score another bonus, and so on and so forth. Plus, there's a little bit more strategy and a little bit more interaction to these Clever games as well, because as you roll the dice, you're rolling 6 dice, you pick one to use. Anything lower goes onto this platter that's in the box. And after you've used 3 dice, and to use the dice, you roll, pick one, roll, pick one, roll, pick one, losing the lower ones every time. You end up basically leaving 3 options, assuming that you did it well, for other people to pick from. And they put one of those down on the board. So you have to be thinking about it, because you might really want, let's say, a pink 4, but if that gets rid of 3 dice, now you're really locking yourself into what you can take the next time around. So, or next roll. So I really enjoy that. Plus, you might be giving your opponent something that they really want, which I'm not too worried about hate drafting in this one, or picking a die, but sometimes it's worth at least noting. Next up, we have Furnace. I believe this is 82. This is going to be an engine building game with a fun auction mechanic in it. Let's talk about the engine building first. I mean, it's very classic in terms of you get a resource, you change it into a resource, you change that into victory points. Like, you're working to have that flow to get victory points. But how you build your engine, I really like. First, there's the auction piece as you bid on cards that are going to be part of your engine. But more so than that, or at least in addition to that, I like that you can rearrange your engine each time. Like, you rebuild it after each round of auctioning, because you might have a decent working engine, which means the next time that auction comes up, you're looking to see, how can I improve this? How can I make this better, dump out more points for me in the end? Because, I mean, if you're unlucky, or if you're not able to figure it out, I won't say unlucky, because I think you can almost always figure out something, that you're going to have to rework it, or you're just going to have a less efficient engine than you want later in the game. And then the auction aspect. The auction aspect is so much fun in this game, because you have 4 tokens, 1 through 4, for bidding, and as you bid on cards, you can never place a second token of yours on a card, and you can never place the same number that somebody else has placed on a card. So that means the 4 is always going to win. So maybe you want to play out your 4 right away because there's a perfect card for your engine. That's going to be your first bid. Now everybody else knows that, okay, they can't get that one, but they still may want to bid on it, because there's the winner. The winner gets the card, and they get to add that card text, or whatever it is, conversion, to their engine. But everybody else, there's at the top of the card basically resources or some action, something available that people can do, and you get to do that the number of times that are on the chip you use to bid. So maybe I drop a 4 on something right away, but you get 2 coal at the top. So if you get 2 coal, somebody else is looking and going, well, I don't really want to get a second card. I know which one I need to get. I'll put my 4 on that one, but I'm going to put my 3 on this other one, because now I'll be able to get 6 coal. And that's going to prime my engine, so it just starts kicking off. I don't have to worry about resource generation. I've already done that ahead of time in the auction, which is just a blast to have that in there. And the game works really well. With higher player counts, I mean, I think it goes up to, I forget if it's 4 or 5 it goes up to, but at the top end it doesn't add that much time, because besides the auction aspect going around, everybody can build their engine and figure out what resources they need and what points they need, and kind of follow that all out at the same time. And then the final one, which was teased at the very beginning of the video, is Igdrasil Chronicles. Igdrasil Chronicles is going to be a cooperative campaign game, but you can also play one-off with it. And again, one of those that's just big and fun and has a lot going on with it. You're basically activating your character, and you can pick kind of the turn order of who activates when, because there is actual strategy to that. But let's talk a little bit about how the game works. In this game, you're trying to either outlast to a certain point, have a certain event have happened a number of times, while maintaining a semblance of control and keeping any of the lose conditions from just blowing up. Because it might be Fenrir, it might be Loki, it might be Hela, it might be Surtur. All of these, plus more, are trying to destroy you. They're trying to beat you. And a lot of them are pretty simple. You're just trying to get to the point where they're collecting certain things, and you have to try and balance all these different things of, all right, well, Surtur's getting bad, I have to go down to Hell, or I have to go down to his realm and deal with him down there, plus he's moving around the board. Or, okay, I see Surtur, we might be triggering Surtur again soon. Let me go and grab this card that allows me to deal with his win condition better. And it works so well. It's just so much fun and an interesting puzzle. And then I was talking about, like, you decide turn order, because every round, excuse me, every round players are going to be taking a card from the top of their deck. They don't know what that card is, kind of, and flipping it. And that's going to have one of the enemies, one of the things that you don't want to have happen on it. And it won't happen until 2 of those cards are in there, because when that second one flips, you finish your turn if you can, and then that activates. So I believe that's how it works. Or maybe it activates, then you do your turn, and Fenrir just ends your turn when Fenrir happens. I forget precisely, but when that happens, those 2 cards that were taken or used to activate that go to the bottom of their respective players' decks. So you can start to figure out, okay, I've just done 3 cards, and we've previously activated 3 of the enemies with some of my cards, so I know that I might be cycling into something familiar. And that's a fun kind of puzzle of, I don't know if it's the next card or the one after that, but maybe you should go first to deal with Hela or Surtur, and then when I flip, most likely they'll activate, but we'll be in a better position for it. So there's just this, nice little extra aspect to a game that's already tough that makes it even tougher. But there we have it. There we have games 90 through 81. Thank you for sticking with me, for sticking with the fact that I put up a video without sound. I know what I did wrong, so I can avoid that. Again, my brain was just not in it with it yesterday in terms of the technology. Hopefully you've had fun. Let me know which of these games is your favorite and which one that you would want to try. Drop a comment for that. And if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. I was going to say I'm going to be streaming my top 100 games every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central, like this video originally was done. But had to redo it this time. Hopefully I won't have to ever again. So it will be 9 p.m. Central Time on Wednesdays for that. And then on Mondays, the time varies, but some solo gaming or some topic of some sort, playing Balatro or something else. And then on Friday nights, I think we have everything we need to be set up for our Baldur's Gate 3 stream without any issues. So we're going to be back at that again, well, tomorrow night at this point, since I'm not doing this on a Wednesday. And if you want to check out, I have a whole bunch of other videos that vary from small solo games to big solo campaign games or campaign games that can be played solo, as well as then other things like lists, Gen Con prep, all that jazz. And if you want to read some of the things that I've been writing up, creating, you can head over to nerdologist.com. The link is down in the description section below. As well as, I always have to plug my podcast, 10 Minute Marvel. If you're interested in Marvel movie, TV shows, stuff like that, as well as some comics talk and other stuff, you can check that out wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. But with that, see you next time.